Some forests should never be entered. They stretch for miles, swallowing sound, light, and reason. The deeper you go, the quieter it gets, until even your heartbeat feels too loud. That's where Ethan, Brooke, and Ryan decided to camp, in a part of Oregon the locals called the Unnamed Green. It was supposed to be a weekend escape, a hike, a bonfire, just three friends in nature. But the forest doesn't welcome everyone. Sometimes it keeps what it wants. As the sun began to fade, Brooke wandered a few feet from their camp to gather firewood. That's when she saw something half buried beneath the roots of an old pine tree. Metal, cracked, covered in mud. She knelt down and pulled it free. It was an old handheld camcorder. Heavy, scratched, its lens fractured like a spider's web. No name, no logo, just rust and silence. Ryan joked, maybe it's a ghost hunter's camera. But Ethan pressed the power button anyway. A faint beep, a flicker. Then, against all odds, the tiny screen came to life. Only one video file appeared. July 14th, 2004. Before they could play it, the battery died. The screen went black, and the woods fell silent again. Brooke whispered, "That's more than 20 years ago." Ethan slipped the camera into his backpack. They'd charge it back at the cabin tomorrow. As they turned to leave, Ethan noticed something strange. Next to the spot where the camera had been buried was another indentation in the soil. The same shape, the same size, as if there had once been two cameras. But only one remained. And somewhere beyond the trees, something moved. The next morning, the forest looked calm again. Mist hung low over the creek, and the air smelled of wet pine. Ethan barely slept. All night, he thought about that camera, who had left it, and why it still worked after so long. Back at the cabin, Brooke wiped the mud off the casing while Ryan searched for a charger. Miraculously, one of his old cables fit. They plugged it in, and a red light blinked. The battery was charging. For hours, they waited. Outside, the forest whispered through the windows, every gust sounding like a sigh. When the light finally turned green, Ethan pressed play. The video crackled to life. A shaky frame. 3 people, a man and 2 women, laughing around a campfire. The date stamp read July 14th, 2004. The group on the screen looked young, carefree, their faces half lit by the fire. The camera panned to the trees, and for a split second, caught movement. A tall shape, standing just behind the tree-line. Still, watching, Ryan paused the video. What was that? Ethan rewound, but the screen distorted, filling with static and a strange clicking noise. When the image returned, the people on screen were gone. The fire burned lower, and the camera was lying on its side, pointing at the forest. A voice, barely audible, whispered near the mic. It didn't sound like anyone from the video. Just one word. Run. The footage ended there. The cabin felt colder now. Brooke looked toward the window, where the forest loomed dark and silent. Ethan tried to laugh it off, but the sound cracked in his throat. Outside, something heavy shifted in the trees, as if the forest had just taken a breath. They couldn't stop thinking about the video. Who were those people? Why did it look so real, so recent, when it was dated July 14th, 2004? Ryan searched online for missing campers in the area. He didn't expect to find anything. But after a few minutes, his face turned pale. 3 names, all from a missing persons report filed exactly 21 years ago. A man and 2 women. The same faces from the footage. They were never found. Ethan leaned closer to the laptop screen, scrolling through old news clippings. Local hikers reported screams in the woods that summer. Police searched for weeks. Nothing but empty tents, ashes, and blood near a creek. The same creek they camped beside. Brooke whispered, "This isn't a coincidence." But Ryan forced a laugh, trying to bury his fear. Maybe it's just a prank video, a setup, viral marketing or something. Still, none of them turned off the camera. They kept it rolling while they packed, each pretending not to notice how quiet the forest had become. No birds, no wind, just a strange electric hum that seemed to buzz in the air, growing louder the deeper they listened. That night, they played the footage again, slower this time. At the end, just before the whisper, the camera caught something new. A reflection. In the corner of the frame, metal glinting faintly beneath the dirt. Another camera. Brooke froze. It's showing the same spot we found it. Ryan stared at the static flicker. If that was true, then the last thing those people filmed was the exact place they were standing right now. Ethan shut the laptop. Outside, in the reflection of the dark window, something was standing behind them. Morning came, but the world outside the cabin felt wrong. The sky was gray, heavy, and still. No birds, no wind. Only the distant creak of trees shifting in the cold. Brooke wanted to leave. She said the forest felt different now, closer somehow. But Ethan was stubborn. He wanted answers. He wanted to find the landmarks from the tape. They grabbed their gear, the old camera, and a compass. Ryan led the way, following the creek until the forest swallowed the light. Each step felt slower, heavier, as if the woods didn't want them moving forward. After an hour, they found it. The fallen log, the hollow stump, the exact spot from the 2004 footage. Even the same moss-covered rock, cracked down the middle like a scar. Ethan lifted the camera and matched the frame to the old video. Every detail aligned perfectly, except for one. In the tape, the clearing looked smaller, as if the trees had grown inward, closing the forest around them. Now, standing there, it felt suffocating. The air was thick, humid, heavy with the smell of rot. Brooke called out, "Hello." Her voice vanished instantly. No echo, no return. Ryan turned to Ethan. "This is stupid, man. We've seen enough." But Ethan wasn't listening. He was recording, framing the same shot from the old footage. Same angle, same tree line, same log. Through the cracked lens, something flickered. A shadow moving between the trees. Too tall to be human, too still to be an animal. Then, faintly, the camera caught something else. A whisper, layered over the static. "You shouldn't have come back." Ethan lowered the camera, trembling. The whisper didn't come from the speaker. It came from the forest itself. Night fell faster than it should have. The forest swallowed the last bit of daylight, and the cold crept in, thick and damp. Their flashlights flickered like dying fireflies. They tried to find their way back to the cabin, but every path looked the same. No landmarks, no direction, just endless black trees, stretching forever. Then Ryan saw it. A tree, massive and ancient, split down the center. Its bark was blackened, as if lightning had struck it long ago. But it wasn't burned, it was hollow, and something inside was glowing. Ethan raised the old camera again. The lens clicked. The static hummed. Through the viewfinder, the glow shifted. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Brooke whispered, "Do you see that?" Inside the hollow, faint scratches covered the wood. Numbers, dates, names carved so deep they bled sap like old wounds. Ryan leaned closer. "That's my last name," he said quietly, carved right above a date. October 12th, 2023. Ethan's breath caught. That's today. A sharp wind tore through the clearing. The light inside the tree flickered, and for a second, they saw a face staring back. Pale, hollow-eyed, smiling. The camera jerked. The static screamed. And then darkness. When the lens cleared, the tree was empty. But the names had changed. 3 new ones had appeared. Ethan, Brooke, and Ryan. Brooke dropped the flashlight. It rolled toward the hollow, casting a beam inside one last time. Something moved within the dark. Something that now were their faces. They didn't sleep that night. None of them spoke about what they saw inside the hollow tree. They just packed what they could and started walking. Any direction, as long as it led away from that place. But the woods didn't let them leave. The deeper they went, the louder the forest became. Not with animals or wind, but with a low hum. A constant vibration in the air, like 1,000 whispers buried under the soil. Ethan carried the old camera, its red light still blinking even though it wasn't recording. He tried turning it off, but it wouldn't stop. The light just stayed on, pulsing softly, as if the camera was breathing. Ryan turned to him. "Just throw it away, man. It's cursed." Ethan shook his head. "No, I need to know what's on it. There's more." That's when it started. A scream. Faint, distant, echoing from somewhere deep in the forest. It was long, desperate, and it sounded exactly like the voice from the tape. Brooke froze. That's impossible. They stood perfectly still, listening as the scream rose and fell through the trees. Then it stopped, cutting off so sharply it felt like the air itself had been torn apart. For a long time, nothing moved. Then the camera crackled to life in Ethan's hand. It played the scream again, the exact same sound, looping endlessly. Brooke whispered, trembling, "It's not playing the tape." Ethan swallowed hard, watching as the red light flickered in rhythm with the noise. "It's recording it." By the time the sun disappeared, the forest had changed. It no longer felt like a place. It felt like a presence. The trees leaned closer. The air was thick with mist that moved on its own, curling around their legs like fingers dragging them back. They found a small clearing and decided to stop for the night. Brooke built a fire, her hands shaking so badly she could barely light the match. Ryan sat in silence, staring at the camera's red light. It hadn't stopped blinking since the scream. Ethan rewound the tape again, hoping to find something, anything, that explained what was happening. But this time, the footage had changed. It showed the same clearing they were in now, the same fire, the same three of them, sitting in the exact same positions. Only, their faces looked different, distorted, wrong. Ryan whispered, "This can't be live. We're not filming." The sound distorted again, a faint static rising beneath their voices. Then, through the firelight, came movement. A shape, tall and thin, standing just behind the trees. It didn't move like a person. It didn't breathe. Brooke dropped the camera. The fire hissed, smoke rising in thick black coils. For a moment, the shape vanished. Then the static roared, louder than before. The camera picked up something new, a whisper that crawled through the noise. "Keep watching." Ethan turned toward the darkness. The firelight flickered across his face, and Brooke realized his eyes were fixed on something behind her. She turned slowly, and saw a pale figure standing just at the edge of the firelight. Its mouth open, as if it was trying to speak her name. The fire burned low. No one spoke. No one moved. The pale figure at the edge of the light was gone, but its presence clung to the air like a bad dream that refused to fade. Ethan replayed the last few seconds on the old camera. The video showed the same scene. Their fire, their shadows. But there was something else in the background now. Something standing between the trees, just barely visible behind the smoke. Brooke leaned closer. "Pause it right there." Ethan froze the frame. The figure was tall, impossibly thin. Its skin stretched tight, its eyes like hollow black pits. It wasn't human. Ryan whispered, "What the hell is that?" But the camera began to glitch, the screen bending and distorting, like the image itself was alive. Brooke grabbed the camera, trying to turn it off, but the playback didn't stop. Instead, it zoomed in on the figure automatically, as if the camera wanted to look closer. Then the sound changed. The crackle of static deepened into something wet, a slow, dragging sound, like footsteps moving through mud. Ethan's flashlight flickered. He swung it toward the tree line. Nothing, just endless black. Then, from the darkness, two faint reflections blinked back at him. Not animal eyes, too high off the ground, too still. Brooke whispered, "Ethan, lower the light." He did. The reflections vanished, but the sound didn't. That slow, heavy, dragging step moved closer, closer, until it stopped, right behind them. And for the first time that night, the camera started recording on its own. Morning came without sunlight. The fire had burned out hours ago, but the air was still warm, as if something had been standing too close all night. Brooke was the first to wake. Ethan and Ryan were gone, their bags still there, their boots still lined by the fire. But no footprints led away from the camp. Only one pair of prints remained, hers. Brooke grabbed the old camera. The red light was off now. She replayed the last few seconds of footage from the night before. Static, then a frame, blurry, shaky, of Ethan's face, lit by firelight, whispering something. She turned up the volume. "We found it. The same camp, the same fire pit." Brooke froze. They weren't in their own camp. The footage panned slowly, revealing the clearing, the fallen log, the broken lantern, the blackened ring of stones. Every detail identical to the 2004 video. They had spent the night in the same exact campsite, where the missing group vanished 21 years ago. A cold wind rushed through the trees, carrying faint echoes of laughter. Familiar, distant, and horribly wrong. Brooke spun around. The fire pit smoked again, as if freshly lit. A smell filled the air, burnt wood, and something else. Something metallic. She lifted the camera. Its lens cracked, but focused on the fire. Inside the ashes, something shimmered. A ring, half melted, still glowing faintly red. Brooke whispered, "Ethan." The camera beeped once. Its screen glitched, showing a new thumbnail she hadn't recorded. July 15th, 2004, continued. Brooke stared at the date, then slowly turned toward the forest, where two shadows now stood, watching her from the tree line. Brooke didn't move. The camera stayed locked on the two figures at the edge of the forest. They didn't breathe. They didn't sway with the wind. Just stood there, perfectly still. Her voice trembled. "Ethan? Ryan, is that you?" No answer. Only the faint crackle of static from the camera's built-in mic. Then, footsteps. Slow, wet, dragging, coming from behind her. Brooke spun around. Nothing. The camp was empty, but the footprints in the dirt had changed. Now there were 3 sets, and one of them led directly into the fire pit. She stepped closer, the camera's light trembling in her grip. The ashes shifted, revealing what looked like a human handprint burned into the stone. She touched it, and the camera screamed. A high-pitched digital shriek filled the clearing, the kind of noise no normal device could make. The screen glitched violently, flashing images that weren't hers. A hospital hallway, a red door, a man crawling through mud, then a frame of herself, sleeping by the fire, from a different angle. Someone had been filming her. The footage stopped on one final image. A black silhouette holding the same camera, standing exactly where she was now. Brooke stumbled backward, her breath sharp and broken. The static grew louder, like whispering voices underneath the sound. She caught words this time. "Don't leave the woods. It's not done recording." The camera light flickered. The 2 shadows at the tree line began to move, one step at a time, closer and closer, until the frame turned white, and everything went silent. The next thing Brooke remembered was waking up to the sound of rain. The fire was gone. The shadows were gone. But the camera, still in her hands, was soaked and humming softly. It wasn't recording, yet the red light blinked every few seconds, as if it was alive. She turned it on. The footage didn't start with her. It started with 3 men she didn't recognize. Their clothes were old, early 2000s maybe. Their faces pale under flashlight glare. They were laughing, setting up tents, talking about finding proof for the documentary. Brooke's heart stopped. She had found the original tape, the one from 2004. The footage played by itself, no buttons pressed. One of the men, a bearded guy with a blue jacket, turned toward the camera. For a split second, he looked straight through the lens, his eyes wide, like he saw her. "Someone's watching," he whispered. Then the video glitched, hard. The trees warped, the sound stretched, and a shape appeared behind them. Tall, featureless, its outline made of static. The men screamed. The camera fell. Then silence. Brooke hit pause. Her hands shook. She rewound the tape frame by frame. And there, in the reflection of the fallen lens, was a faint image of herself. Her same jacket, her same hair, filming from behind a tree. Brooke dropped the camera. Outside, thunder cracked like a scream. She crawled toward her backpack, but the light from the camera flicked on again by itself. It began recording, even though no one was touching it. The tiny screen showed a live feed of her own face. Terrified, watching it back, then a faint whisper came through the static. "You were always part of the footage." Rain hammered against the trees. Brooke stumbled through the mud, clutching the camera like a weapon. Every few seconds it flashed, recording on its own, each flash revealing glimpses of the forest she didn't recognize anymore. The paths twisted back on themselves. No matter which way she turned, she ended up in the same clearing, the same burnt fire pit, the same half-buried ring still glowing faintly red. Brooke whispered, No, this isn't real." But the camera disagreed. Its screen flickered to life again, showing footage of her running. Except she hadn't recorded it yet. She was watching herself from a few minutes into the future, turning in circles, screaming for help. The real Brooke stood frozen. Then she saw it. Her future self on screen suddenly stopping, looking directly into the lens, and mouthing something. "Don't let it finish." The recording cut off. Lightning split the sky. The flash illuminated something new. A second Brooke standing across the clearing. Identical, soaked, holding an identical camera. The 2 locked eyes. Both cameras blinked red at the same time. Brooke tried to drop hers, but her fingers wouldn't open, as if the device had fused with her skin. Her double lifted the camera to her face and whispered, "You shouldn't have pressed play." The forest shifted around them, the trees bending inward like ribs closing around a heart. The ground vibrated with whispers, hundreds of voices, repeating the same words through static. Record, replay, repeat. Brooke screamed, and both versions of her disappeared in the flash of a single frame, leaving only the camera, still recording, pointed at the empty clearing. Brooke woke up lying on cold stone. Not dirt, not forest floor. Stone, smooth, wet, and humming faintly beneath her palms. The air smelled like dust and rain. She sat up, dizzy. The forest was gone. In its place stood what looked like an old basement, walls lined with rusted lockers, pipes dripping into puddles that reflected flickering light. And there, on the ground beside her, was the camera, still on, its lens cracked, but watching her like an eye. Brooke whispered, "Where am I?" The camera answered with a click, and footage began to play on its own again. The screen showed her, same jacket, same fear, walking through the same room she was standing in now. But in the footage, something followed her in the shadows. Something tall, its face always hidden by static. She paused the tape. The sound didn't stop. Footsteps echoed from behind her, slow, deliberate, matching perfectly with the playback. Brooke turned around. Empty. She turned back to the screen, and the footage had changed again. Now it showed a hospital corridor, white walls, flashing lights. A sign on the wall read, "Ravenwood Institute, closed since 1987. Her breath caught. That was miles away from where she'd entered the forest. The video zoomed in slowly on one of the doors, room 14B, and on the glass window, Brooke's reflection appeared, but older, thinner, eyes hollow. She was inside the room, banging on the glass for someone to let her out. The real Brooke stumbled backward, screaming as the walls around her began to change. Paint peeling, the stone floor turning to hospital tiles. She dropped the camera, but it kept rolling, and the last frame before it hit the ground was her reflection in the glass door. Smiling back, the smell hit first. Disinfectant, rot, and something faintly metallic, like old blood. Brooke stood in a long, dim corridor. The sign above her head was rusted but still readable. Ravenwood Institute, Psychiatric Ward. The camera flickered on its own, recording as if guided by an unseen hand. The hallway stretched endlessly in both directions, each door numbered, each window sealed from the inside. Brooke whispered, "This place isn't supposed to exist anymore." She tried the first door, locked. The second, locked. But when she reached room 14B, the knob turned easily. Inside was a small, empty cell, a single chair, a broken mirror on the wall, and carved into the concrete, over and over again, one sentence. "Record to escape." Her reflection in the mirror didn't move. It just stared back, breathing slightly out of sync. Brooke raised the camera toward the mirror. As the lens focused, the reflection smiled and lifted its own camera. A sound filled the cell, like static, but deeper, heavier, and the mirror began to ripple like water. Images flashed within the glass. The forest, the campsite, the fire pit. Ethan and Ryan's faces twisted in silent screams. Brooke backed away, but the door slammed shut. The lights flickered. From behind the mirror, something moved. A pale hand pressed through the glass, followed by a face, distorted, skin paper thin, eyes black voids. It whispered, "You were never filming the forest. The forest was filming you." The camera beeped. A new file appeared on the screen. Ravenwood_log_15. Brooke froze. She hadn't recorded it yet. The door creaked open behind her, and down the hall, a red light blinked inside every room, as if hundreds of cameras had just turned on at once. The corridor was alive. Every door glowed with that same blinking red light. 100 tiny eyes recording from the darkness. The hum of electricity filled the air, low and constant, like a heartbeat buried in the walls. Brooke moved slowly down the hallway, her camera still rolling. Each time she passed a door, the blinking stopped, as if the rooms were watching her, waiting for her to speak. She reached the end of the corridor. A rusted sign hung crooked on the wall. "Record to escape." Her hands trembled. "Fine," she whispered. "I'll record." She lifted the camera and hit the button. The lights above her flickered violently. Every door in the hall burst open at once, slamming against the walls, revealing rooms filled with flickering monitors, each showing different versions of her. One Brooke screamed. Another laughed hysterically. A third was standing in the forest, whispering to someone unseen. Every screen showed a different reality. Then the sound returned. A whisper layered over hundreds of voices, all saying the same thing. "Finish the footage." The air thickened. The camera in her hands grew hot. Brooke stumbled backward, the floor vibrating under her boots. A shape crawled from one of the open rooms. Long, thin, faceless, dragging wires behind it like veins. It reached toward her. Brooke pointed the camera at it. The moment she did, the creature froze, trapped inside the frame. She understood now. The camera didn't just record. It contained. She stepped closer to the thing, whispering through tears, "You're not taking me." The camera light flared, and the creature screamed, collapsing into static. Then silence. Brooke looked down. A new message blinked on the cracked screen. One last scene to capture. The exit door at the end of the hall swung open by itself, revealing a faint light and the sound of her own voice, calling from somewhere ahead. The hallway ended at a single metal door. Light spilled from the gap beneath it, flickering like an old projector. Brooke's heartbeat echoed in her ears as she stepped closer. The camera in her hands vibrated softly, as if it already knew what waited inside. She pushed the door open. A wide, empty room. Concrete floor. Pipes dripping in the corners. And in the center, a single tripod. On that tripod sat a camera identical to hers. Still running. Still recording. The walls around her flickered with moving images. Her journey through the woods. The campsite. Ethan, Ryan, the mirror, the creature, all playing at once in an endless loop. Brooke stepped into the light, trembling. The other camera turned toward her by itself, and the playback on the walls shifted, showing something she hadn't seen before. A new clip. Her, sitting on the floor of this same room. Weeks older, eyes empty. Her voice cracked through the static. "If you find this camera, don't finish the tape." Brooke stared in horror. The camera in her hands began to melt into static, its buttons sinking beneath her skin. She tried to scream, but her voice came out as static too. The walls went white. The footage stopped. Then, one last image appeared. Brooke, now behind the tripod, smiling at the lens. Her voice echoed through the speakers. "The woods remember everyone who presses record." The screen faded to black. A final message blinked for a moment before disappearing. "Found footage ends here. The woods keep recording." Static. Silence. Then the red light blinked once more.